Today I'm going to teach you how to insert a video inside your website, since we in some cases might want to have a video inside our hero section or maybe even as a background inside our website, since we can do that if you don't want to have this static background that doesn't move or anything like that. So when it comes to creating a video, we used to, back when I was studying and HTML5 was kind of like still a new thing, we used to insert videos using a different way. But today, luckily, when it came to HTML5, we also got a video tag, which means that we can very easily just insert videos inside our website and control all sorts of aspects about it. So with that, as you can see, I have a basic example website in front of me here. There's nothing really special about it. We just have a basic head tag that just has some CSS files in it. And I do also have a body tag that has a basic wrapper inside of it, just so the content doesn't go above a certain width inside the browser. I do also have a style sheet with just some basic preset styling just to make sure everything looks kind of nice when I'm doing this tutorial here. So as you can see, I imported a font that I'm using. I did also include a dark background since I don't want you to have your eyes burned out with a white background when we sit inside the browser. And I did also include the styling for my wrapper. So we do have a 900 pixel width and it is centered with a margin called 0 auto. So with that, I did also went ahead and created some styling for a button, which will make sense in a second. But essentially, we're going to be adding buttons in this tutorial here. So with that, going inside our index page, I'm going to go ahead and create a HTML video tag. Now, there is a couple of ways we can link to a video here, because I do actually right now inside my root folder, I do have a videos folder that I created. And inside this folder, I have two files. I have a video, which is called video.mp4. So this is a mp4 video file. And then I do also have a poster for the video, or a thumbnail, as we call it on YouTube. Now, if you don't have a video, just go ahead and grab some sort of video you might have in your computer, or you can download the lesson files for this video in the description below. But either way, I'm going to be linking to this video inside my video tag. So I can just go ahead and go in here and say I have a video folder or videos folder. And inside this one, I have a MP4 video called video. Now, if I were to go back inside my browser, just to kind of show how this looks like, you can now see that we get a video. Now, currently, there's a couple of things wrong with this because we don't actually have a width for this video. We also don't have any sort of control, so we can actually control the video. So what I can do is I can go back in here and I can actually add that inside the video tag. So inside the beginning tag, we can say controls. If I were to save that, go back inside the video, refresh it, you can now see we have controls and we can actually play the video. Create a fav icon for your and it plays inside the website. So using the controls attribute, we can just go ahead and add controls to the video. You can fast forward, you can also, now we can't see it, but there's some other controls on the side. So what we can also do is we can go back inside and we can actually add a width and a height if we wanted to. Now, my general rule of thumb when it comes to me making a video height or a width is that I'm just going to set a width, because when I do that, the height is going to auto adjust and just fit the ratio of your video. So if I were to go in here and say I want to add a width, now currently my wrapper is 900 pixels, so I'm going to write 900, go back inside the website, refresh it, and then you can see we have it right here. And we do have some other controls over here. We can turn up and down the audio. We can also, full screen it. And we do also have some options over here where you can set the playback speed and put it in picture mode, so it's down at the bottom, just like we have it inside YouTube. And all these things are actually something you can customize using JavaScript if you wanted to at some point, because we do have JavaScript methods that we can actually go in and use in order to customize our player if you wanted to do that. But this is not really a JavaScript tutorial, even though at some point a little bit later on we will get a little bit into JavaScript in this video here, just a little bit, because I do think there's a couple of things that it's just really nice for you to know about. But going back inside our video tag, we do also have some other attributes, because besides setting the controls, we can also autoplay our video as soon as we load up the video inside the browser. So what I can do is I can set a autoplay. And we will run into a small issue here, because if I go back inside the browser and refresh it, you can see, oh, but it's not really autoplaying. And for some reason, it doesn't autoplay, even though we did set it to autoplay, and we can get it to autoplay if we want to, but we do also need to go back inside and add muted afterwards. And if I were to go back inside the browser, refresh it, you can now see that it autoplays. So it is a thing that if you want to autoplay your videos, that you do need to go in and set it to muted to begin with for some reason. Don't ask me why this is a thing, but apparently the developers behind this HTML5 video did not want you to jump scare people when they enter your website. So you do need to set it to muted. And if you do that, then we can add this autoplay and it will actually work. Of course, if you were to just go in and remove the autoplay, it is just going to be muted when you start it up to begin with. So if we were to refresh, you can see it's muted. But I can also go in and play it and it just starts muted. And then we can, of course, unmute it if you want to. Now, we have so again, all these attributes here are just to kind of like give you some customization options. We do also have the option to loop this if you wanted to. So what I can do is I can add in the autoplay again. And I can also add a loop at the end here. So if we were to do that, go back inside, refresh it, you can now see that once we get to the end, so if I were to like let it play out here, it just automatically starts over again. But I do have one more that I want to show you. So if we were to go in here and say that we want to add a poster and set it equal to a specific link. And like I said at the beginning, I did add a thumbnail inside my videos folder. So what I can do is I can go inside my videos folder / and then get my video poster.png. Now, I do want to not have it set to autoplay when I start this video here, because otherwise we don't actually get to see this. So if I remove the autoplay and go back inside, refresh, you can now see we have a thumbnail for the video. But now I do also think it's important that we talk about video compatibility, because right now I'm using a MP4 video, which is a format that does work in all the modern browsers. But if you want to, I just want to show you, even though it's probably not going to be necessary, you can go inside the video tag. So as you may have noticed, we do also have a closing tag down here. And if you were to go in between, you can actually, instead of adding a video source up here, I'm just going to copy and delete it. You can actually go below and add a source in between the video tag, add in the link. So we have the source to this video file, and then also tell it what kind of type of video this is going to be. So we have a type, and this one is going to be set to video /MP4. Now this is going to do the exact same thing as we did before. So if I were to save this, just to kind of like show you that this is working, if I were to go back inside, you can see we do still have the video playing. It is still being linked. I did add in the autoplay again, which is why it's autoplaying. So, you know, it's the same thing as it was before. But I do want you to notice that we can also go in here now and actually copy this, paste it below. And let's say I did actually export a OGG version of this video. So not an MP4 type, but a OGG type. I can go in here and say that we have a OGG type. And let's also go ahead and add a WebM, because we can also do that. So if we were to go below here and say we have a WebM video, and of course also tell that we have a WebM type, then essentially what we're doing here is we're saying that, okay, if the browser does not support this file format, then we're going to jump down to this one. And if it doesn't support this file format, then it's going to jump down to this one. If it does not support any of these file formats, we can go down and say your browser does not support HTML5 videos or something. So this is essentially another way of doing things if you wanted to. But like I said, in most browsers today, or at least all the modern browsers, we do have support for MP4 videos. So we do need to go back quite a bit if there should be no support for MP4 videos. So what I'll do here is I'll just go ahead and comment this out. And I'm just going to go ahead and add back in the source inside our video tag. So we have it up here. So again, this is just so you know, this is how we can do it if you want to add multiple support files for this particular video. But like I said, in most cases, you know, this is going to be enough just to get this working. But now let's say we want to add custom controls inside our website. So right now, if we were to go back inside the website, you can see we do have the video here. I'm just going to go ahead and not have it autoplay because that is kind of getting annoying. So I'm just going to remove the autoplay here. And let's say I want to create my own buttons inside the website for controlling this video. We can actually do that. So if I go below the video and add a break tag, because I do want to go down to the next line, what I can do is I can add a button. Inside this button, I'm going to add a onClick event, which is a attribute we can use in order to call upon JavaScript functions inside our website. Now, currently, we do not have any JavaScript inside this website here, so let's just go ahead and leave it empty for now and just go ahead and say we want to play / pause this video, so we can play and pause the video if we want to. And I'm going to copy this button, paste it below twice, and the next one is going to be half size, and then we're going to go ahead and say normal size, And then we're going to use these buttons to make the video smaller and make it bigger inside our website. With the buttons created, I'm going to go right above my body closing tag down here at the bottom, and I'm going to create a script tag, which is going to be a tag that we use in order to include JavaScript code inside these script tags. So anytime you write JavaScript code, it has to be inside script tags or inside a external file. But in this case, we're just going to do it on the same page. I just want to say here that I do know this is not a JavaScript tutorial, and people following this course are of course trying to learn HTML and CSS and not JavaScript. But JavaScript is the natural next state after learning HTML and CSS. So I do think that for the people who are curious about it, that it's a good idea to just kind of like follow along here and just get a small taste of what JavaScript is and what you can do with it. But I do also know that some people don't want to learn JavaScript, and if you're that person, then it's perfectly fine to end the video here and just say, you know what, I'm not really, interested in overwhelming myself with JavaScript, so I'm just gonna end it here. That's perfectly fine. But for the people who are curious about this and might want to take a small interest into learning a little bit of JavaScript, we're going to go and do that. It is just a small bit of JavaScript, I just want to say. So it's not like anything that should be overwhelming, hopefully. So going in here, inside the script tags, what I want to do is I want to create my first line of code, which is going to be a line of code that is going to reference to the HTML that I want to do anything with. So right now we have a video tag up here that has some different things about it. We can play the video, we can pause the video and do things like that. And I want to grab this video so I can do something to it. So inside my code, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create a variable. Now in the past, we used to create var. So basically I'm declaring a variable here and I can give it some kind of name that I want to give it. So I could, for example, say my video, because that is the video I'm trying to reference to up here, right? So what I could do is create this variable, but a new thing that has come up in the past is instead of using var, we're going to go ahead and use a let declaration, which basically means that we're not going to do anything in terms of like hoisting, because JavaScript does have some hoisting issues when it comes to using the var declaration. So even though in all other programming languages out there, we might be using var or the specific data type we're trying to create here, in this case here, we're going to create a new type of variable that exists inside JavaScript, which is called let. Don't worry too much about the differences between let and var. It's just basically a new way to say, oh, this is a variable. So inside this variable, I have to assign a value to this variable, which is a empty container essentially. And what I can do is set it equal to something inside my document. So I'm going to say I have a document, which is this HTML file that I'm inside in right here. And I want to set it equal to a HTML element inside this document. Now, the way we select a HTML element inside JavaScript is using something called query selector parentheses. And this is what we call a method. And we know that because it has a name followed by a pair of parentheses. So right now, this is a method that exists inside the JavaScript language that we can use to do something, because that's what you do with methods. You do something with them. So in this case here, I want to grab something. So I can go inside the parentheses and say double quotes and then reference to any sort of HTML up here that I might want to grab. And we can do that the same way as we do using CSS styling. So I can go inside my video and say I have a class that is equal to double quotes. And then I could call this one my dash video. So I were to copy the name, paste it inside the double quotes. But I do also need to do the same thing as inside CSS. So we do need to say we have a class called my video by using the punctuation. And now with this HTML element grabbed inside my code, so I can actually do something with it, I can now go down to next line and create something called a function. Now a function is declared by writing function followed by the name of the function that we come up with. So in this case here, I could call it something like play pause parentheses curly brackets. And now a function is essentially just a block of code that does not get run yet until we actually call upon this function here. So when I want to run this code inside this function, I need to call on it first, right? So inside the function, what I can do is I can add the code that I want to run once I call on the function. But before we run anything in here, I do want to talk a bit about properties and methods inside JavaScript. So this thing up here that we just used is a method, right? Because we do something. with this thing that we grabbed. So whenever we create a method, I could, for example, say that I want to grab my video, and then I want to run a method on it by saying punctuation followed by the method name. So in this case here, I could say I want to pause the video, and then I could say parentheses, which indicates that this is a method. And just like I said, because we do something with this video here, when we run a method, this basically means that we're pausing the video, right? Because we're doing something to it. However, we do also have something called a property, and a property is a little bit different than a method, because a method, like I've said many times up until now, is when we do something to something. So we're doing something to this video, we're pausing it, right? But what I can also do is I can go down to next line and change one of these to paused without the parentheses behind it. So when we don't have the parentheses, we're creating a property or referencing to a property. And when it comes to a property, instead of doing something to my video here, in this case here, we're actually grabbing information about the video. So to give a real life example of this, let's pretend I am something that we have to do something to, right? I'm the thing that we're doing something to. Now, a property would be my eye color, my hair color, my height, my language, just information about me. So I could, for example, go down to the next line here and say Danny, and then dot hair color. And this essentially would just be getting information about my hair color, just to give an example here, right? But a method is when we do something. So I could, for example, say Danny dot run parentheses. And this would basically make me run, like make me do something, right? So just with that logic, try and think about video paused and video pause as kind of like the same thing as these examples here. So having talked about this, video paused is essentially returning a true or false statement that tells us whether or not the video is right now playing inside our browser. So what I can do is I can actually go right above this code that we just wrote here, just so we have it still as a reference. And I can go ahead and say, if something is true, which is called a condition, then run this block of code inside these curly brackets here. So in this case, I could check if my video right now is paused, and then go inside the curly brackets and say, if the video is paused, then I want to grab my video and I want to run a method on it. So I want it to do something. I want it to play, right? So what I can do is I can say play parentheses semicolon. And this is basically just going to play the video if it is right now paused. So what I can now do is go down to the next line and say we want to run a else condition. And the else condition basically just goes in and says, if this first condition up here is not going to be true, then ignore the code in here and jump down and see if the next condition is going to be true. So we're just like jumping down to the next one. So right now, if the video right now is not paused, then run this code down here and actually pause the video. And we can do that the exact same way. So we can just copy this line of code, paste it inside the else statement. But instead of playing the video, we're going to go ahead and pause it. So we're going to say pause parentheses. And now we can actually go and delete these two lines of code down here. So with that created, we now actually have a function that goes in and pauses the video if it is right now playing, or playing the video if it is right now paused. So it's going to check for either one of those and then do the opposite thing. But like I said, it's not actually going to run this code unless we actually call upon the function. So what I can do is copy the name of the function that we have here, go back up inside my button, and I can go inside the on click for my play pause and say that when I click on this button, then I want to run this code down here inside this function. So doing this means that I can actually go back inside the website, refresh it, go down, click the play pause button, and then you can see we actually play the video. And I can click it again, and then it's going to pause the video. And now this can be used for anything inside the website. It doesn't just have to be a button. I can actually go ahead and maybe create a little piece of text down here. So I can create a h2 tag, and I can call this one, this plays or pauses my video. And just by adding in this on-click attribute inside this particular HTML element, we will now also play and pause the video just by clicking this piece of text inside my browser. So by saving this, I can go inside the browser, refresh it, and now we can't really see the text because everything is kind of dark, but you can see it's right down there below. So if I were to click it, you can now see that just by clicking the text, I'm also playing and pausing my video. So I can click it again, and we pause the video. But now we do have two other buttons that need to do something. So what I can do is I can copy paste this function, go down below, paste it in, and I can call it something a little bit different. Let's call it half size, because we want to halven the size of the video when I click this button here. So what I can do is I can go inside, and I'm not going to run all these conditions here because we don't actually need that. This is going to be much simpler than the previous one. All I want to do is when I call on this function is to decrease the size of my video. So now if you were to think about this, the size of the video, is that going to be something that does something? Or is that information about the object that we're grabbing? If I think about it, I do think the width of the object is kind of like a property because it's just information about the object. So what I can do in here is I can go and grab my video and I can say dot and then find a property called width. And do remember, because it's a property, we don't add the parentheses behind it. So the thing about properties, though, is that you can get information about the property, but you can also set information inside the property. So instead of just getting the width of my current video, which this would actually do, I can also go and say I want to set it equal to a string, which is a piece of text. And I want to set it equal to half the size of what it is right now, which is 900 pixels. So half of that is going to be 450. I can also go ahead and just copy paste this, go down below and say I want to have one called normal size. Doing that, I'm going to set this one to 900 because that is right now the normal size of my video. If I were to go up here, you can actually see that right now it's set to 900. So having done this, we can now take the name of this function down here and go up, paste it inside our half size button. Same thing for the other one. We can grab the normal size, paste it inside our normal size button, save it, go back inside our website, refresh it. And now when I click these buttons down here, you can see that it halvens the size and it normalizes the size. And just like that, we now have a video where we can do things, we can play and pause it, we can hide the controls if you want to. That is a thing, by the way. You can go in here and you can go inside your video. And if you were to take out the controls attribute and go back inside the video, you can now see that we can't actually play and pause it. Like we can't do anything because the controls are missing. But it's just to kind of show that we can really customize this in all sorts of ways, even using JavaScript if you wanted to. So with all that, I hope you didn't get too confused about the JavaScript. I did kind of like try and squeeze in a lot of information here about JavaScript because a lot of times in my lessons, I would have one lesson dedicated to talking about variables and I would have one lesson talking about functions, you know. So you basically just learned a bunch of new information that should have been multiple videos in one video. So if you never did JavaScript before and you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed and you're a little bit confused about like, how do I know all these things down here? That's basically just practice and learning JavaScript one step at a time until eventually I remember things. So don't get overwhelmed if you think that, okay, but you can't remember all this stuff. Like it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal, I should say. Just keep this as notes because that's what everyone does. And then return to it whenever you need to see this again, basically. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this lesson and I'll see you guys in the next video.